Now, this is a topic that has a rather large weight in my books when it comes to its importance because I used to, well, to an extent, I still do really enjoy games. And when it comes to protagonists of video games, to be specific, role playing ones, they also have to fit into certain brackets, fulfill certain criteria, the progression of the story, and how exactly does the protagonist fit into that. And well, for me to enjoy the experience, we have to start well at the beginning. The point of the story when the protagonist is somewhat weak, the playable character, and grows both in strength and importance. But here comes the first issue, and that is the fact that I do not want to play as someone who is incompetent. That is not how I imagine a beginning of a video game that I would personally enjoy. And I will use for the nth time Neverwinter Nights as an example of a playable character done very much to my liking because said character starts as a trainee adventurer of a prestigious elite academy amongst others gathered by Lady Aribeth for training, for hero training of rather big importance, but still a trainee. During the prologue, we play through what is the character's final test, where the players learn the game's mechanics and the character displays for us what he or she has learned through the time period of learning, studying at that academy. He, and I will use he because I play male characters in Neverwinter Nights, successfully graduates and begins his career as a hero, as an adventurer. Mind that I'm using the word hero in the sense of a problem solver, not necessarily a good person, because there is a choice, there is alignment, since it is a game using the Dungeon and Dragons rulebook. But during the graduation, something goes wrong. Creatures, the academy, protected, escape, or are kidnapped, and it is our task to retrieve them because they are necessary in creating a cure for a plague that is plaguing the city. That is the first chapter, and for even an elite trainee, this task is a bit too large for his shoes, and so he needs to grow into them, and the progression feels quite natural, organic, through the acts of getting closer to people around the lord of the city, Nasher, and by the end of that game, we end up standing in front of that very Lord Nasher, who during our first meeting was this imposing figure, slightly dismissive despite our achievements, who then ends up basically doing whatever we want him to because he pretty much has to leave the fate of Neverwinter to us, to this adventurer who had begun as this competent top of the class but still a fresh graduate, and became through the journey through that game this actually imposing figure capable of feats no other character can perform. But my main point is that even though the character has to earn all of that, He does not start wimpy. There is no forced loss. No, we go through the final training, fight one of the attackers behind the kidnapping of those creatures, then land on our feet and have to start, well, taking care of the issues on behalf of Lady Aribeth, who is another character established as this grandiose general, paladin, a paragon of justice, but still remains humble, still remains polite, does not take the playable characters' help for granted, does not boss the character around, leading him on a leash, because we are technically not under her command, which is another thing that I really like about the protagonist of Neverwinter Nights, that he's still a solo adventurer. Well, this is turning into another episode of me going on and on about a 25 years old game. So basically, protagonist of Neverwinter Nights starts small but competent, grows into someone important through effort, and this is what I enjoy as a character, as a protagonist, whom I play as in a role playing video game. But now I really need to stop talking about Neverwinter Nights. This is just going to keep happening every time I even remotely approach a subject where straying in the direction of that game is even remotely appropriate. Oh well. Last time, the Rapid Arrows took it upon themselves to drag through a truly difficult terrain simply to test themselves, and it did end up in a slip that had Speedy finish his cold bath a bit early that day, but nothing other than a bit of time was lost. After drying everything up around a fire, they can continue their journey. The path gets truly strenuous. They even have to actually scale one of the waterfalls in an almost mountain climber manner. Indra commenting on how treacherous this particular one is compared to all the other previous ones they have encountered so far. And the night is approaching, no signs of human activity in sight, and so the first option is to spend the night under what appears to be a cliff, with Indra hoping to find something better considering that the weather is still rather cold and the rain is starting, and so staying out there in the open would be less than preferable. Then, in a stroke of maybe luck, Redcap finds a cave quite close to that cliff, one that could potentially serve as their shelter for the night. As they all enter and begin exploring the cave, it turns out that it is much larger than the low entrance might suggest, with sort of a platform rising a bit further inside, seemingly ideal for sleeping with soft ground, and well, especially it's dry up there, and so Mirek orders for fire to be lit to warm up the place, reminds everyone to only use dry wood to avoid filling the cave up with smoke, and so everyone rushes back outside to gather as much firewood as they can before the rain turns unbearable, and also before it all turns unusable for their purposes. Then, when inside, sat around a rather raging fire, Indra is just commenting on the downpour outside, which Yarka somewhat dismisses, simply hoping that the morning will have clear skies, and we sort of have all the hints needed to figure out what is going to happen next. A river that with just a bit of raining, tends to quite readily leave the confines of its shores, and a cave with a low entry point rather close to said river and a rain. Then probably after falling asleep, Yarka suddenly notices that the lower part below the platform is becoming flooded rather rapidly. So the next course of action is to draw a line with chalk, leaving someone awake to check up on it once in a while. The line is drawn above the level of the water that is currently inside of the cave, and once it reaches it, they would have to take further action, otherwise they might actually drown. The first one on the watch is Redcap. He's supposed to wake up Speedy in an hour and a half, with Mirek saying that they can no longer feed the fire any more wood, despite their rather large stockpile, just in case. When changing guards, Redcap shows Speedy that the water has at least stopped rising for now, but it is rather close to the line. He reminds him once more to wake everyone up the moment it reaches it, although Speedy says that no one is really sleeping due to the tension. When Redcap is back with the rest of the club, he gets a bit panicky, but also asks some rather uncomfortable questions that they will have to answer sooner rather than later, such as what are they going to do if the river stays out of bounds for a longer period of time, trapping them inside a cave. They only have enough food for 3 days, almost no more wood, and what about the air in the cave? And then also what about the reaction of their parents when they are still not back, when they said they would be? And also the rather small chance of anyone actually just stumbling upon them and somehow saving them, all valid concerns. Well, Mirek manages to calm him down somewhat and then simply states that they will properly investigate the cave in the morning, hoping to find a way out, but for now urges everyone to at least attempt to get some actual sleep. And this is where I'm going to stop. Next time, more rapid arrows, more stupid ideas.